What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So a while back we did a video with my 2017 GMC 3500 Duramax where we relocated the crankcase ventilation line that went into the inlet of the turbo down under the truck to a catch can. Well, since I put that video out, I actually had a subscriber reach out to me to inform me that the ventilation system on these L5P Duramaxes is not that simple. The factory actually utilizes a plastic box that they pressurize with boost pressure to help evacuate some of the gases out of the crankcase. And what happens is when you have these trucks wicked up and turned up like this one is, those boxes can fail and you can get an excessive amount of boost pressure into the crankcase, which you definitely don't want. So as soon as we found this out, I reached out to SPELAB to get one of their crankcase ventilation kits on the way to eliminate the possibility of pressurizing our crankcase, and it showed up today and we're going to get this thing installed. So let's get through the intro and jump right into today's video. Now that we've gotten through the intro, let's take a quick look at our current setup so that you guys can see where I went wrong. Now, I definitely feel like this is still much better than the factory system. At least all of those oils and gases are not getting dumped right back into the inlet of the turbo and consumed by our engine. But we want to eliminate the source of that excessive pressure, which is exactly what we're going to accomplish with our new SPELAB kit. So let's take a quick look at the current setup just in case you guys have missed that video. Then we'll check out this new SPELAB kit and get it installed. So let's take a quick look at our current setup. Excuse the truck, this thing is absolutely disgusting. These New England winters absolutely suck. But if we take a look up here, this is that black plastic box that I was referring to. Now, the way this system works is there's actually a line that comes off the back of the turbo that goes to this box, which helps evacuate some of the crankcase gases. Now, it kind of swirls around in there, and it's supposed to be not very much pressure, but when these things fail, it will put all that pressure through the crankcase. So after it goes through that, this line would normally be hooked up to the turbo inlet horn right down in there. Ours is red, that would normally be black stock, but it would get hooked into there, and then all that oil and vapors would go back through the inlet of the turbo into the engine. So the way we did it was after that box, we just have our line coming up and over, and then it goes down to a really big catch can I have mounted on the frame rail. So definitely better than a stock setup. It keeps all that stuff out of the engine, but we didn't eliminate the source of the potential pressure. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here today. So let's get our SPELAB kit opened up, check this thing out, and then we can start getting it installed. Let's go ahead and get everything pulled out of our new SPELAB kit here. We'll set it off to the side and then go through it real quick. Now that we've got our new kit laid out on the bench, let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. But before we do, I have a discount code for you guys to save 15% site-wide at SPELAB. That's code BOUGHT2, and that's going to save you 15% on anything SPELAB has to offer, including this CCV reroute kit, or if you're looking for a differential cover, transmission pan, oil pan, they also have a ton of tuning options, as well as a bunch of exhaust options, including a set of electronic cutouts, available in a variety of sizes. We're actually running their 3-inch kit on our ProCharge GTO, and it has been absolutely flawless. I'll make sure to link that video in the description below this one so that you guys can go and check it out after today's video. Once again, that's code BOUGHT2 at checkout to save 15% on anything SPELAB has to offer. So let's go ahead and take a look at this kit and check it out. So as you guys can see, this new kit from SPELAB is actually a really nice looking kit. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way these trucks are set up factory, this is your oil fill, this would be your breather box, and on the factory box, these are one and the same. So these are actually joined as one unit. But with the new SPELAB kit, they are separated, which I prefer much better over the joint piece. So this is going to be our new dedicated oil fill. As you can see, it's really nicely machined, and it has a nice O-ring receiver groove machined in the bottom, so you don't have to mess with any gaskets or seals or anything like that. Same thing with the cap. It's got a nice O-ring on it to help keep this thing nice and sealed up. Now, if we look at the box portion of it, same thing, nice O-ring machined groove here to help keep this thing sealed. And then you've got 2 ORB fittings on either side of it. And then right here where our vapors and gases are gonna come through, this is all machined out, and they actually drilled some holes in there. And the reason they did that is as a baffle to help separate any oil particles from the vapors that are leaving the engine, because we want to try to keep as much oil in the engine as possible. So they did the same thing with their fitting here, drilled it out to help separate it that much more. Now, the reason that you have 2 fittings on here is because you can run this one of 2 ways. You can either put the fitting back here or up here, and if you do it in the front, you're going to be able to run the line right back to the factory location into the turbo inlet if you don't want to vent this to atmosphere. But the way we're going to do it is use the plug that they supplied. We're going to cap off this end here, get this thing bolted down onto the truck, and then we can put our rear fitting in, and then we'll be able to run this down to the frame rail where we have our catch can. You can definitely vent this to atmosphere if you choose, but we have a catch can, so we're gonna go ahead and use it. Now, moving on to the next piece here, they even give you a hose clamp so that if you do wanna go to the factory location, you can. And of course, they give you all the nice hardware to recess down in here. They give you the hardware for all of these pieces. Now, this little piece here is a very important piece as well, because on the factory system, you actually have a line that comes off of the turbo that supplies a little bit of boost pressure to the factory box to help push any of those vapors through the crankcase. We don't want to do that. That's what we're trying to get away from. We don't want any boost pressure in our crankcase. So they have this nice little block off kit, which is going to allow us to take that line off, cap it up with this, once again with a nice machined O-ring, so we don't have to worry about any leakage. And then, of course, we've got some line. So it looks to be about a 10 AN push lock with some really nice push lock line. So I'm super excited to get this thing installed on the truck. It looks like it comes with everything that we're gonna need. So let's get the factory stuff pulled off and get this new SPELAB stuff put on. So we're gonna start with getting this line that I made off of here. I'm gonna undo the hose clamps there. We'll get that line popped off, and then we can start getting our charge piping out of our way. As you guys can see, these are junky hose clamps. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of oil on it and in it, so it was definitely doing its job at keeping the oil out of our engine. Now that we've got those hose clamps off and this line is loose, I'm gonna go ahead and try to get it off. So there is a one-time use clamp right there. You can try to cut it with a pair of side cutters, or sometimes, if you get lucky, you can just fight it off. If we can spread it enough, we might be able to get it off without the cutters. Just like that. So we actually got really lucky with that breather line. We were able to just wiggle at it and use a flathead screwdriver. Now, I know I said that I was going to do the charge pipe next, but we're actually going to wait on the charge pipe and this boost line that goes to the back of the turbo for now, because there's something that I'm not looking forward to on this project, and they are right down in here. As you can see, they look like some little Allen head screws, but they're actually rounded off from the factory so that you have to replace this with the valve cover, which obviously we're not going to do. So we're going to have to try to either get an easy out in there or beat some sort of socket in there or use a left-hand drill bit. So we'll try that out and see what seems to work best for us. Once I get one out, I'll give you guys a better look at it, and then we can decide if we want to get the charge pipe or that boost line out next. There's really no good view for me to give you guys, but basically gonna go in there. I have a T30 Torx bit on there right now. We're gonna try that first. If it works, cool. If not, we will switch over to a drill bit or an easy out. So that one tapped decently. Now I'll get a magnet and pull that out and show you guys what I'm talking about. So like I had mentioned, the factory rounds these out so that you have to replace it with the valve cover. Luckily, we were able to beat a T30 Torx bit in there, and this one popped out. Hopefully we get that lucky with the rest of them, but let's go ahead and give it a shot and see what happens. All right, guys, so I changed my mind. We're gonna go ahead and get this intercooler piping out of our way. There. So for now, I'm not going to take this all the way out. I'm just going to try to leave it loose like that and see if that helps us get in there a little better. So let's take our T30 again and see if we can't get lucky on the next one. another one down. 2 more to go. Sure, you guys have a fantastic view right now, but I'll show you more of it once we get this thing out. I'll show you where all the bolts and stuff are. See if I can get this one. Luckily, these ones are in pretty lightly. I found that if you really hammer on it a little more, it helps break them free. And knock on wood, we got pretty lucky with them. But I have seen other people that have had to fight them. So as you guys seen, we got pretty lucky with these GM rounded out bolts. I was able to take that T30 Torx bit and just tap it in there with the hammer. You'll feel it once it starts to set in there and bite. I give it a couple good whacks even after that, just to help loosen anything up and make sure it's got a really good bite on there. Main thing is just keep the socket straight on and then pop these things out. I used a 1/4" drive. They weren't tight at all. You just got to get a good bite on them. So the next thing that we're going to do now that we got those out of there is, as you guys can see, we've got this line right here. This actually goes to the back of the turbo and lets boost pressure into our black box, and then it goes through the crankcase to help push those gases out. Now on the back of the turbo, you can see it right here. It's the one that loops around down and under. That's the one we're going after. So we've got a 10mm bolt up top and then a 10mm bolt at the bottom of that plate, and then we have a block off for that in our kit. So let's go ahead, get in there, try to get that out, and start getting the black box right out of here. So as you guys can see, we can swing that over out of the way for now. And now we should be just about ready to try to pop this black box out of here. So it might be stuck down there pretty good, but give it a wiggle. Ours loosened up pretty good. Now, if you have a bunch of debris here, you should vacuum this out before we pull it off so nothing falls into the valve cover or into the engine. Ours is pretty dang clean, so I'm not too worried about it. But we're just gonna go ahead and slide this guy out of here. And now we've got this whole magic box out. So let's take it over to the bench. We'll look at it next to our new kit, and then we can start installing it. Now that we've got the factory box out of there, I just wanted to show you guys real quick where those bolts were that we had to tap that T30 Torx onto. So as you can see, there's one here, and then if we flip this thing over, there's another one here, and another one right here. So this would sit on the truck like that. And then of course, this is our line that went to the turbo with those two 10mm bolts we removed. Luckily with the SPELAB kit, it comes with this nice block off plate, so we can get rid of this line altogether. Thing looks like it's gonna be a really nice kit, so let's get it installed on the truck. So the first thing we're gonna do on reassembly is I went ahead and took a rag and just cleaned off any surface where our new pieces are gonna go. Get any old oil or debris out of there. Make sure you don't knock anything into the openings into the engine, but just clean up those surfaces. Now the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get our block off plate bolted up to the back of the turbo. We're gonna start in the back and just work our way front with these pieces. So I'm gonna grab that plate and our new bolts and we'll get that thing tightened up. All right, so we're gonna get that block off plate installed. So our new bolts are 10mm as well. I'm sure you guys probably can't see much of anything right now. Now I do like to put just a tiny dab of oil on any new O-rings. That goes for pretty much anything I work on. I like to put just a dab of oil on the O-ring itself. And grab our 10mm socket. We don't need to go crazy tight with these. I'm just kind of alternating back and forth, snugging it up. You just really need to go until it squishes that O-ring a little bit, and then it's good. I'm gonna say that's good right there. Now we've got our block off plate on, and we can go ahead and move to the next piece. Now we can move on to the next piece and install our block. I did go ahead and tighten down these fittings using an AN wrench. You don't need to go too crazy, they're O-ring. And then I put a little bit of oil on the O-ring of this one as well. So we'll go ahead and try to sneak this down in here. Try to set it down in place here. Get our 2 bolts in and started. So to tighten down this block, we need a 5mm Allen. Now that we got that on, I can go ahead and grab our oil fill and get that bolted down. So as you guys see, we got all of our new pieces on there and everything looks really good. We've got our block off plate, the breather box, and then our oil fill. The only thing left to do is throw the intercooler piping on and make our new push lock line breather to go from there down under the truck. Now, most people just run that down under the truck by the frame and let it breathe right there. But since I already have a catch can on here, I'm gonna try to utilize it. So I'm gonna see if I have enough line to go from our 90-degree push lock fitting down to our catch can, or if we're gonna have to adapt over to the old line that I have right here somewhere down under the truck. So let's get our line made, see how far we can run it, and go from there. Sorry for the background noise for a second, guys. I got the heater going, it's freezing out. But we're gonna take our push lock fitting and simply just push it onto the hose. It's gonna be a tight fit, but with push lock, you don't need a hose clamp or anything. These barbs are one way, so it'll slide on, won't come off. So just know wherever you put this fitting is basically where it's gonna stay unless you wanna cut the hose. It's not gonna come back out. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on this end here, and then we'll run this line as far as we can or down to my catch can. I like to run it all the way in until this little trim piece gets nice and tight. So that's good to go. We can go ahead, throw this on our breather box, and then start running this down to my catch can. I'm just gonna start feeding this down there and see where we end up. So it looks like we're gonna have enough line to reach down to our catch can. So I'm gonna get it started on at the breather box up here so that I can pull it a little bit tighter and cut off any slack and then run it right into the can. For AN fittings, you really wanna use an AN wrench. They're just aluminum so you don't mar up the fitting and make it look like crap. So if you care what they look like, use an AN wrench. We're just gonna use this adjustable one because it's easy to get in there. All right, we've got our fitting tight. Now we can throw our charge pipe back on, and then we'll just throw the line on my catch can down below. Go ahead and get this one tightened down. I don't like to use impact guns on these types of clamps because it's very easy to mess them up. I'll come back and tighten that by hand in a second. I'm gonna snug those down by hand real quick, and then we can throw the catch can line on and try firing this thing up. So I'm sure you guys probably can't see very well because I can barely see under here, but this is the catch can that I've been running ever since I did that first reroute. We had it on the shelf, so I threw it up here under the frame rail, but we just went ahead and swapped the line out. We've got our new line from our SPELAB kit going to it. Now, you don't need to run a catch can if you don't want to. You could just run that line down under here, zip tie it out of the way. But I had the can, so we decided to use it. We just got done installing our new SPELAB CCV reroute kit, so let's fire this thing up and take it for a ride. Let this thing warm up a minute and we'll take it for a ride. So like I said, guys, it got pretty crappy out pretty fast, but I don't expect to see any big noticeable improvements from the SPELAB kit. Where you would see your improvements is over a course of time, keeping your engine nice and clean and healthy. So that's mainly what we cared about by doing this kit, is just trying to keep the longevity of this engine up and keep this thing nice and healthy and happy for as long as possible. And that's where this kit is really going to shine. But I'm sure it's going to be plenty happy driving this thing around now. So really happy with the kit all the way around. Not sure what it made for boost there, but it was getting it pretty good. For such a big girl, this thing gets down pretty good, guys. So sadly, with how crappy the weather is, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have much fun out here. So let's head back to the house and take a final look at this kit. So there you have it, guys. We have got our new SPELAB CCV reroute kit installed on the L5P Duramax. I definitely think this kit is going to help keep this truck happy and healthy for a long time to come. Don't forget, if you guys want to pick up a kit or anything else SPELAB has to offer, use our code BOUGHT2 at checkout to save 15% site-wide. As always, I appreciate you for checking out the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and check us out on all of our other social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, and Bought to Build Official on Instagram. And we will catch you on the next one.